Welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how life is a dance. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that mind and body connected movement is vital to healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I created Dance to Heal Wellness featuring the Spotlight Confidence Formula and also authored the best-selling award-winning book, Outside In Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new ways to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now.
We are not allowed to have emotions, right? If we are a woman in business, if you get angry, then, you're the angry monster, bee lady, you know what I mean? If we cry, we're too emotional and not emotionally able to handle anything. And I don't want to discard men's experience as well, because I will say this, that they also have had struggles, especially our generations and above. They're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to have them. But they are allowed to be angry, which is a difference. We are supposed to be docile and calm, resilient and strong and all the things, and not ever express our emotions. And so when we reduce nervous system regulation to calming down, we further the oppression of people. And I'll say people in general, not just women, but people of color, like indigenous people. Like when we tell people they're supposed to be calm, when we tell them things have happened to you, but you're still supposed to react in a calm way, you're oppressing people, right? But that's not fair, right? We don't always have to be calm. You're allowed to get angry. Now, in a civilized society, we have rules. We can't let our anger take over completely. I can't just go like running around hitting things and screaming in public and stuff like that. So I have to learn what my anger does inside my body and how to express it in an appropriate way. And that's what regulation really is about, right? Learning that anger is okay. Learning that sadness is okay. Being able to have the capacity to sit inside my body when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling scared, when I'm feeling angry, when I'm feeling sad, and being able to sit inside those emotions and being able to bring my body back to regulation so that it doesn't completely floor me or cause me to erupt, out in the space. And then if I am angry at someone, then I am allowed to express that anger and be angry. And that's part of regulation of the nervous system. And I think it's such an important distinction to make, because there's so many people that are selling this idea that we can just be calm all the time. And if I'm talking to someone, if I have conflict with someone, I should be speaking to them like this in a calm manner. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm mad, and I'm going to say it with passion so that you understand that I'm angry. I won't be mean. I won't call you names. You know what I mean? I won't hit you, but I do need you to know that I have expression inside my body. And I think a lot of people, deserve to be able to show that. And back to the community that I serve, when you are working with the people that have been abused, they have had everything taken from them emotionally and mentally. Everything. They are reduced to nothing inside their own minds. They have had their autonomy, their agency, their bodies completely, a lot of times their money, sometimes their children, completely taken from them. So if we want to really be informed about their trauma, we have to try to give it back. We have to try to allow them to have agency, allow them to have experience, and understand what sensations they're feeling inside their body, because repression of any emotion at all causes the nervous system to remain in an unstable place.
Yes. And now there's even scientific research backing that it leads to disease for us.
Yeah.
Long term. If we're not actually addressing how elevated our cortisol levels are all the time, our bodies lose the ability to fight off disease in our bodies. Our immune system just tanks because so much energy is being spent on allocating the unresolved feelings somewhere else, that we're literally redirecting energy from our immune system towards that. And I think that's really important, right? It's someone, I can't remember the name of the person, but he was just on the Diary of a CEO with Steve Bartlett talking about you've heard of the spoon story, right? About energy conservation. So
Yes.
I had heard of it, and then it was re-brought to my attention during my cancer treatment when I started chemotherapy, and I was an occupational therapist, so I got a packet from their occupational therapist about energy conservation, and they'd be like, "Look, every day you wake up in the morning, you have 10 spoons." Everything takes a spoon. Decision making takes a spoon. Eating something
Yep.
takes a spoon. Once your 10 spoons are used up, you're done for the day. You can't get any more spoons. And as you progress in your chemotherapy, the 10 spoons become five, four, three,
Yeah.
right? And for a lot of survivors of anything, we have to understand how many
One.
spoons are you starting
Yeah.
the day with. Sometimes a teaspoon. I had tablespoons, and then they became
Right.
teaspoons. They were like just
Right.
tiny little spoons, and they would get
Mm-hmm.
used up so fast. So some of you audience members who are listening to this conversation, you might be at the beginning of realizing you're in an abusive relationship. And you may have to decide for yourself, what are you willing to spend your very precious spoons on? Okay? And you don't have to like admit, like you can just quietly be getting yourself out. Or and you're in a relationship or a friendship where you're being verbally or energetically abused, and it's time for you to get out. We're giving you
Mm-hmm.
permission to do that and just put up the boundaries and cut off contact. It's really important you do that because it will lead to dis-ease in the future. It all is it's like a compiling interest in your body. That's what I discovered. Because when
Mm-hmm.
I got breast cancer back in 2014, Julie, I was at least mainstream healthy. I've been working out. I was at my pre-baby weight. I was all muscle. And you would think
Right.
I should be doing great. And then my
You're
husband went in
like,
the
where did
hospital.
this happen?
Yeah, my
Mm.
husband went in the hospital. I went to Germany, which was a new fun experience, but stressful as FUCK because my husband had just been in the hospital a month before and came back with a lump. So it's
Oh,
like no history of breast cancer. All right. So I'm not saying you're going to get cancer. I would just like you to avoid disease as possible. And there's
right, right,
ways to
right.
do it, right? Okay. One last question. And I think this is going to bring everything into it for me, anyways. You often say that movement saved your life. Can you share what that looked like for you during your healing journey after trauma?
Yes. So I was young and I was living in New York and I was dancing. A modern dancer. I was also teaching people their wedding dances. That was like sort of my bread and butter, which is crazy ironic for what I'm about to say. And then I was, getting certified to teach Pilates, and I was, learning a lot about anatomy. So I was doing a lot of movement all the time. But I was in an abusive relationship. I was in two, actually. One that was very violent, and the other one that was emotionally abusive. And I caught myself just now. I want to bring this up for anybody listening. I caught myself. I almost said the other one was just emotionally abusive. And I want to be clear because when people say that to me, I say, no, no, drop the just. Abuse is abuse. It's psychological, right? When you're messed up in your head, right? So I want to be clear there. But I was in two of them, and the violent one was more clear to me. And that's why I like to talk about abuse being psychological a lot, because it's very clear when someone threatens your life, when they say, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to shoot you, that's very clear. That clarity is actually really important, because you're like, oh, that's not right. Like that, you're like, I know that somebody shouldn't be saying that to me. And it catapults you in a way. And I was like, yeah, I need to move. I need to move from this place. I need to change my locks. I need to get out of here. And I did. The other one was a lot harder to navigate because sometimes it can be confusing. Emotional abuse is very confusing. You're sitting there going, well, I started with nothing in my head. So when somebody's emotionally abusive to me, it's not clear. I don't understand. Right. So I was in that one for a longer than, you know, I would like to admit now, but it's fine. I'm out of it now. Now, once I got out of the big violent relationship, I realized that during the process of leaving that situation, I was numb. I had really no sensation whatsoever. I had no emotion whatsoever, no crying, no anger. No, I was just numb. It was like, get the important papers that have your name, get the and parents' address on it, make sure you bring the cat, get this, change the locks on the door. It was like, it was very cut and dry, like do this, do this. My brain was instructing me the things I needed to do to bring myself to physical safety. And I'm grateful for that. And I did that. And I got there. But once I got to the place where I was physically safe, my body erupted. That's when I got scared. That's when I started to have PTSD, flashbacks of what had happened. That's when I started to have like an anxiety disorder. And that's when, of course, I thought that I was dying of heart disease. It took me a while to figure out what was going on. I did not know I had PTSD right from the start. I did not know this for years. I knew this after having many, many, many panic attacks and not dying and going, oh, well, I might not be dying. It might be something else. Let me try to think of this. But I also learned it because, as I said, I was dancing a lot. I was still, I've been dancing since I was 3. I've been dancing my entire life. I am a very dedicated person. I have never been in a place in my life where I've been not in class in some way, or at least doing a ballet bar. I've got a little bar back behind me. Even when I couldn't get to class, I was still giving myself ballet bar. I have never not been in training my entire life. I am extremely disciplined in that way. So I was still showing up. I was still going to class. I was still going to my rehearsals. I was still showing up to everything that I had to do, even though inside my body was a volcano erupting basically all the time. What I noticed is that once I was dancing in the class, after I danced, after I, taught, after I was learning about anatomy because I was really focused, after I was teaching people their wedding dances, which, like I said, is ironic because I'm like, this is the happiest point in their lives. And I'm like, ugh. And they would say to me, you should be a marriage counselor. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I should not be anybody's counselor for anything. I was like crying on the subway steps a few minutes ago. You know what I mean? But I realized I was teaching them communication with their movement. And I was not talking about their marriage, but I was saying, your lead is not clear, your follow is not clear, you're not letting such and such lead. And they were translating that into their own conversations later on. And so it was making sense for them. But what I noticed is that when I was in my element, when I was dancing, when I was teaching, when I was working, my body got grounded, my body calmed down, the volcano stopped erupting. And so over time, over years of time, because I will say I rejected therapy at first because I was young, and like all therapists, like they do want to start with the childhood stuff. And like I had things that I went through as a kid, but like my parents are good people. Like they didn't do anything to me. So like I was like, this doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like it didn't work for me. I wasn't like, it wasn't attaching to it. It didn't make sense to me. So like my parents did not traumatize me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I just like rejected it at first. So I don't recommend that. I recommend sticking with it because you'll get to the answers faster than I did. I obviously had to take the hard road, and that is to the benefit of everybody that I serve now, because now I know how important movement can be. If I had been doing therapy, I would have been like, therapy did it. But because I was rejecting it, I'm like, no, it was movement. But I do recommend sticking with your therapy. Do not reject it as I did, because it will take too long to heal. But I was only doing the movement. And when I got grounded in my body, when I started to feel better in my body over time, I started to realize, you know what? Maybe I'm not dying. Actually, maybe I'm having panic attacks. Why am I having panic attacks? And I started doing research on the brain, on the physiological symptoms of the nervous system. I made the discovery about the psoas muscle, that is your fight or flight muscle. I made the discovery about the connection between the diaphragm and the psoas, and how breath really plays a role in how your psoas is functioning. I realized, sometimes when I'm not in dance training, I'm standing in a certain way that's tightening up my psoas. It's making the panic get locked in there. And when I'm dancing, because especially with like modern and ballet, I'm getting in alignment. I'm really like, my body's there, my core is engaged. I'm really using my full body. I get grounded and I feel good. So I started to realize there are a lot of things that movement can do to help you get into a place physically that you can then do the work. So then once I started getting into that place regularly physically, then I said, okay, let me like do the mental and emotional work and figure out where all this stuff came from. What's this trauma? Where did it come from? What's traumas that I experienced when I was younger? Because even like, it's crazy, but even I would go back, and even like my very first boyfriend in fifth grade, okay? We're talking like, I don't know how old you are, 10. I broke up with this kid. He slapped me across the face so hard in the middle of school, like in the bathroom line at school. I could still remember the sting on my cheek, you know what I mean? And the tears and being a young kid. And I'm sure he got in trouble or whatever, but like, it was probably, they're kids. He was a kid, I don't know who this man is now. Maybe he's an abuser. I don't know. Maybe he's learned his lesson, but that's crazy to me. I'm like, even then I was like, faced with something like that. And it was never, like addressed really, I'm sure my parents got really mad at him, but like, it was never really addressed at school or anything. So, this patterns that I like experienced, and I started to realize like, oh, it can start all the way there, right? Somewhere inside my little child mind thought that didn't realize how abnormal that was, and allowed things to then continue and progress from there, right? So I started to do the mental and emotional work because I was able to. Like I said, I wasn't like crawling through mud anymore because my body I felt okay. I felt like I was alive. And then once I started doing that, and I remember very clearly, it was probably like a year after I'd gotten out of this relationship, and I was journaling and stuff. And I was sitting on the 6 train in Manhattan, coming up from, downtown. I was, going back to my apartment from a dance class. And I just was like, oh, like, I feel sad. I feel really, really sad. And I wrote it down because I was like, but that is so different because up until now I've felt numb. And I was grateful to feel sad. I was grateful for that experience. So that's kind of how it all worked out. And then I've kept doing it, and I keep doing it. I'm still dancing now. I still dance professionally. I still dance. I performed last night. I do social dancing, which is actually something I started doing social dancing, salsa and bachata, and really to get comfortable, dancing with men and being touched and having that physical sensation of holding people's hands. And everybody in the dance scene here is like, or everybody that I've come across is really cool and chill. There's no, I've never had any issues with anybody. Like, everybody's just great, and people just love dancing. And so I feel it's been a really important part to my healing as well.
I love the fact that you're explaining in detail how it's affecting every other part of your life, your healing journey. I mean, I'm going to just point this out, even if you're not aware of it. I think you are, Julie, but I'm going to discuss it anyways. The men are cool because you know your boundaries, and it's pretty clear when you're dancing with them, right? Because for me, I'm Asian American presenting, and I used to always in the past think, oh, well, I can't have any control over how I'm perceived as exotic. Like, I'm
Yeah.
always like, they automatically assume I'm docile and I can be pushed around because I'm too polite for my own good sometimes. And I've noticed in my healing, as I've gotten very clear of my boundaries, no one ever trespasses them anymore because I just expect them to respect my boundaries. And I have very
So
firm
true.
boundaries set up, right? But in the
Mhm.
past, oh, I have so many instances of people just trespassing all over me because I didn't know I had the right to set
Yeah.
boundaries on behavior, how they spoke to me, how I was approached. Because I remember I didn't even really grow a backbone, Julie, until I got pregnant with my fraternal twins. And I was
Mm.
going to, meetings for nursing mothers, and they would all be like, "Oh my God, someone told me again that they didn't want me breastfeeding in public." And I was like, "What? I'm double breastfeeding in public, and no one has the audacity to say
To
anything
say
to me. I'm
anything.
in restaurants, parks. I'm not going to the bathroom. They can go eat in the bathroom. My kids aren't going to eat in the bathroom, right?"
That being
I
so
love
weird,
that.
Like why is everybody so weird about it? It's like it's so natural and normal.
Yeah, the baby's eating. Like, stop. Why are you looking
Mhm.
at me? There's something wrong with the person. Audience members, remember, you can get in touch with Julie at themovementeffect.org. TheMovementEffect.org. Okay, so you can either partner with her or donate to what she's doing in LA. All right, Julie. One last question that isn't actually on your list, but it popped into my head during this conversation. I think is really important. People on the outside, friends, family, it's hard for them to understand why it's quote unquote hard for the person who's a survivor to not leave earlier or to, be able to say no. What can we have them understand and be supportive of until the person decides to make a break from that relationship or situation? How can we be an asset and not something that's dragging them down while they're trying to free themselves?
Yeah, I think that you need to just hold space for that person, and I think the most important thing is to provide safety at any time for them. To be willing to provide safety at any time for them, but never make them feel like it is their decision and that they're making a bad decision by staying. Because on average, it can take up to 6 times for a person to leave permanently. Like I said before, when you even start attempting to leave, that's when things can get really scary. If there are kids involved, right? A mother might stay in a situation, an abusive situation, longer if the abuse is only happening to her, for fear that if she removes herself and then there's, visitation rights, that the abuse will then happen to her children. She might be protecting her kids in her mind. It's hard to leave. It's hard to know what's happening to you, especially if it's largely emotional and mental. It is so confusing. You will sit there and go, what an abuser does is it makes you think that everything is your fault, that what's happening to you is your fault. And I can't even tell you how many times in my life, even when I got brave enough to start talking about this, which took 10 years, by the way, it took 10 years for me to say I was in an abusive relationship. And I didn't even cringe just now, which I'm very excited about, because usually I would be like, oh, I didn't do it. Yay. But even when I first started saying that, when I tell people that, it's so common for someone to say, wow, you're a bad picker, as if I chose these men, right? And I'm like, that's such our society is so victim shaming. Like that is our front. We are victim shaming first. So what's really important for you to do, if you're a friend or a family, if you're starting to recognize patterns that somebody's in, you're worried about them, is to go through your thoughts first before you speak things out loud. Go through your thoughts, speak maybe to a professional, try to find someone that has experience in this arena, and make sure that you're not participating in any of the behaviors or any of the conversations that are victim shaming, because when you do that, you push that person farther and farther away. The best thing to do is to say, I recognize, that something, I'm worried about this, I'm concerned about this. Are you okay? If you ever need anything at all, I'm here. I'm here, no matter what. And if they try to leave and they go back, that's okay. I understand. I'm still here, no matter what. You just have to be that safe space for them, because if you start to tell somebody they should leave, so much of what wraps inside their head, again, like I said, we already think it's our fault, right? We already think we did this to ourselves, right? So then if you tell us that we should leave, then we start that battle inside our mind of, I'm not doing what I should be doing. And I know I should leave, but I'm too scared, or I can't, or I've got to protect my kids, or I've got to protect myself, or I think that I'm actually safer here, or in some cases, I don't even deserve to live. And that's where some people go. And you don't want to alienate somebody who's in that place. So you need to understand the various mental places that people can go in these situations, and just try to let them know that you are there. You will always be there.
That's so strong and helpful for me, were I to be in that situation. And then I would add, my wonderful audience members, there is an underlying theme for Julie and I that has always been root of our healing, is that we move daily. We are keeping the conversation with our bodies awake all the time. And if you're a supportive member or a friend, and that person that you want to help isn't regularly doing something to keep in touch with their bodies, you can make those suggestions or offer to pay for classes for them to go, as long as it's a trauma aware teacher, okay? Because you don't want to put them from the pot into the fire.
No.
You can do your due diligence and find them a teacher that is aware to give them, they're working in their own line of practice, which is just the movement. They're not giving them any advice, but they're helping them to be in touch with their bodies so they can decide whether or not they want to stay in those situations. I really love this conversation, Julie. I think you're going to have to come back, because I feel like there's at least 5 more questions I want to ask. And at this length, this conversation is already going to be a 2-parter. So
Right.
is there any last thoughts that popped up in your head that you wanted to leave the audience with today before we go?
I do want to jump on what you just said about if inviting your friends, to move. You can also just say, hey, let's go for a walk. You know what I mean? Walking is incredible. And I want to, like you said, like I love dancing. I love dancing so much. I won't stop. I won't ever. I will always find a way to dance in some capacity as long as I'm living. But that doesn't mean that you have to choose dance. Some people don't think they can dance, or they don't want to dance. They don't love it as much. So walking, running, whatever you do love, movement wise, whatever you do love, that's what you do, right? That's what you choose. You don't have to do my thing. Although I do encourage dancing around in the kitchen to some music just to see, because you might like it and just not know it yet. So yeah, those are my parting words.
I love that. So we're going to leave you, audience, on the note that before you bring anybody else to a dance class, you need to make sure you're doing your free dance, even if it's after a shower and you're naked in your bathroom. Until next time, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Dance to Heal podcast with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of inspiring triumph and learn more ways that you can heal yourself. To work with me and continue your journey, visit danceandheal.com. Are you ready to move?